Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopinanda Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopinanda Vallabha Girivara Dhari Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Nandana Bhajana Ranjana Amudira Manachari Yamunatira Manachari Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Thank you. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshurmilitam Jena Tushmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Tapitam Jena Bhutale. Next line. Sri Rupam Sagar Jatam Sahagana Ragalatan Vitantang Sujivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Padijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha He Krishna Koruna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Banchaka Pachubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Presho Badresho Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavad-Gita Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. So today, Thursday, February 6th, right? 2024, 2025. Now it's 25. Time is going quickly. I was born in the 1950s. It's like, hey, what happened? Somebody said to somebody else, I don't know what happened, but I got old. Happens to everyone, if you live long enough. So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Creation of the Fourth Order, chapters number 26. King Paranjana goes to the forest to hunt, and his queen becomes angry. This is text number 12. Atmanam marhayam chakre Dupalepa srag adibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisham adadhe manaha Atmanam marhayam chakre Dupalega sragadibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisham adadhe manaha Atmanam marhayam chakre Pasrag adibihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisham adadhe manaha
Atmanam arhayam chakre
Atmanam marhayam chakre
Dupalepa shrakadibihi
Dupalepa shagaribihi
Sadvalankrita sarvango
Sadavalankrita sarvango
Mahisham adade manaha
Mahisham adade manaha Atmanam marhayam chakre Dupalepa sragaribihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisham adade manaha Atmanam marhayam chakre Dupalepa sragaribihi Sadvalankrita sarvango Mahisham adade manaha. The synonyms, please repeat. Atmanam, himself. Arhayam, as it ought to be done. Chakre, did. Dupa, incense. Alepa, oh, it's database. Got this weird glitch in it. Smearing, what does it say? Smearing the body with sandalwood pulp.
Smearing the body with sandalwood pulp.
Shak, garland. Adibihi, beginning with. Sadhu, saintly, beautifully. Alankrita, being decorated. Sarva angaha, all over the body. Mahisham, unto the queen. Adadhi, he gave. Manaha, the mind. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. After this, King Paranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp all over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way, he became completely refreshed. After this, he began to search out his queen. Please repeat. After this, King Paranjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body. and put on flower garlands.
Put on flower garlands.
In this way he became completely refreshed.
In this way he became completely refreshed.
After this,
After this,
he began to search out his queen.
he began to search out his
Purport. When a man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a spiritual master, he hears many Vedic instructions in the form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and transactions between God and his devotees. In this way, a man becomes refreshed in mind, exactly like a person who smears sandalwood pulp all over his body and decorates himself with ornaments. These decorations may be compared to knowledge of religion and the self. Through such knowledge, one becomes detached from a materialistic way of life and engages himself in always hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literatures. The word sadvalankrita used in this verse indicates that one must be absorbed in knowledge gathered from the instructions of saintly persons. Just as King Puranjana began to search out his better half, the queen, one who is decorated with knowledge and instruction from saintly persons should try to search out his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness. Notice, return means that that's where one came from originally. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness unless he is favored by the instructions of a saintly person. Therefore, Narottam Das Thakur sings, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vaikya Titete Kodiya Aikya. If we want to become saintly persons, or if we want to return to our original Krishna consciousness, we must associate with sadhu, a saintly person, Shastra, authoritative Vedic literature, and Guru, a bona fide spiritual master. This is the process. Amazing. Mukum koroti vachalam bhangam lagayate girim jatkripa tamaham bande sigurum dinatarinum. Now here we see how one gets from the translation of this verse to the purport, which just sort of takes a different direction. But again, this story of King Puranjana is an allegorical story, not a historical story, given by Narada Muni in order to instruct King Prachinabhari about the science of Krishna consciousness. But without the assistance of the acharyas, we cannot understand the story or the meaning of all the subtle meanings that are contained herein. And this verse and purport is a very good example of that. Well, he went out hunting, he came back, he put on the sandalwood pulp, he put on the garlands, dressed himself all up, he's feeling groovy, he's looking nice, and he checked himself out, he's looking good. Now, where's my queen? Where's my woman, right? So that seems pretty mundane, doesn't it? On the surface. But here, through the intervention of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, now when Srila Prabhupada is writing this commentary, he's just not pulling stuff out of the air. He's consulting, as we heard in the Prabhupada and Lamrita in the last few days. He has a book of the commentaries of the most 12 prominent acharyas, including Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his spiritual master, and Jiva Goswami, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the great writer and self-realized devotee of the Middle Ages, as well as the original commentator on Bhagavatam, Sridhar Swami, and Vijayadwaj Tirtha. So all these incredible Vaishnavas have given their commentaries on the meaning of the Bhagavatam. And so Srila Prabhupada has very expertly synthesized by studying. He would read a verse, give a translation, then write a purport based on studying the 12 commentaries of these leading acharyas. And then he would compose his purport based on that, plus based on his own realizations and the enlightenment that Krishna has given him from within. Srila Prabhupada very famously said, I did not write these books. Krishna wrote these books. So in other words, Krishna dictated to Srila Prabhupada what to write. But it wasn't like, he's just a parrot, just hearing some whispering in his ear and repeating that mindlessly. No, he's a great realized Vaishnava, and he's extremely well studied and extremely well realized in the science of bhakti. So he's eminently qualified in so many ways, and he's also taking dictation from Paramatma, or the super soul, who is within the heart of every living being. So it's not that we're alone in our journey in this material body, but actually the super soul accompanies us, is always with us within the heart. That's explained by Krishna very clearly in Bhagavad Gita in a couple of different places. Ishvara sarva bhutanam haridesharjun tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani rantadudani mayaya. That this body is a vehicle, yantra rudhani maya, but it's made of material energy. So it's like a chariot in the old days. In modern context, it would be like a vehicle, like a car, but not like an internal combustion engine or even an electric car, but something that's powered by the nuclear energy of the spirit soul himself being within the body. So the body is matter, but without the presence of the soul, the body is dead matter. So it's the soul that's animating this body. It's the power cell. And the symptom of the soul is consciousness, and that consciousness spreads throughout the body. So Krishna is saying that every living entity is riding on this body, like riding on a chariot. And this body is like a machine that's made of the material energy. But the soul is animating this body, giving it life and giving it meaning. So actually the soul is a chitkana, a particle of spiritual energy, a tiny fragmental portion of spiritual energy that is possessed of consciousness and self-awareness. That is the soul. Therefore, in the second chapter, Krishna says, some look on the soul as amazing, some hear of him as amazing, and others, even after they hear about the soul, they can't understand anything at all. So that's modern society. You explain about the spirit soul, it's like, oh, you just don't get it. Because of the overwhelming bewilderment caused by being in a material body and thinking that I am this body and that I am the senses. The body's composed of these senses. And so therefore one thinks that I am the servant of the senses and the mind. They're the gross senses, but also there's subtle senses, which is the mind, the intelligence, and false ego. Ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. When Krishna lists the constituent elements of the material energy, bhumi, rapo, nalo, vayu, he talks about earth, water, fire, air, and ether. These are the material elements. But along with those comes ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manyate. So the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego, these are also material elements, which are coverings of the soul. And even if we manage to get some little detachment from the gross material body, still we are bewildered and illusioned by the mind, the intelligence, and the false ego. So therefore, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that bandhurat manas, I can't remember all the Sanskrit, but that the mind can be the best friend. Bandhu means friend. So the mind can be the best friend of the living entity, and it can also be his worst enemy. How is that? Because the mind, which is attached to sense gratification, That's the worst enemy. It's your worst enemy. It leads you to repeated birth and death through the process of sense gratification. But when the mind is trained in bhakti, then the mind is attached to Krishna. Then the mind is one's best friend. When the mind is absorbed in thinking about, okay, how can I execute my bhakti? How can I chant better rounds? How can I arrange my life in such a way that I'm always engaged in Krishna consciousness? That's a trained up mind. That's a mind that's engaged in Krishna service, and that mind is one's best friend. Confirmed by the turkey. His mind is not his best friend, but he's confirming again. He can't help it. So, therefore, this mind and these senses, they are meant to be engaged in Krishna service. That's the overarching understanding. Let's see, what is that verse? Can't remember right now. Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanim Bhaktir Uchate. Asarvopadi Vanirmuktam. One has to Sarva Upadi Vanirmuktam. Upadis are designations. This body is a designation. It's a material thing. What is the designation of this body? I'm male, I'm female, I'm black, I'm white, I'm young, I'm old, all these different aspects of our bodily existence. Those are upadis, or external designations. So the instruction is sarva upadi vanirmuktam. One has to become free. Mukta means freedom or liberation. So sarva upadi vanirmuktam. One has to become free from all these. Sarva means all. Sarva upadi. All these upadis, these temporary designations. Sarva upadi vanirmuktam tat paratwina nirmalam. Rishikena, Rishikesha, Rishikena, Sevanim Bhaktir Uchate. And then one has to engage his senses, which are part of this body, in the service of the master of the senses, which is Krishna or God. And Sevanim Bhaktir Uchate, that is called bhakti, pure devotional service. So when one engages all the senses in the service of Krishna, then one is rightly situated in the spiritual position. And then one is able to sarva upadi vanirmuktam. One is able to give up these temporary designations. And one no longer identifies oneself as this temporary body, but one identifies oneself as what? Servant of Krishna. Yes. Krishna Das. So that is our real position. That is who we are. That is what we are. We are servants of Krishna. But we have forgotten. Willfully so, by the way. Not accidentally. We didn't accidentally forget we're servants of Krishna. We plunged right into that forgetfulness. What is that movie? There was a movie, Eyes Wide Shut. You don't know. You're just going forward and trying to enjoy, what's there. There's a reference in the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam to running as fast as one can with one's eyes closed. Now, you can't do that. Maybe if you're in perfect circumstance with the perfect, track and, but like normally, you got to watch out where you're going. So, sometimes they say people when they're driving and they're not paying attention, hey, watch out where you're going. Look where you're going. You can't drive in your car with your eyes closed, right? What happens then? It's a disaster. You try to drive with the eyes closed or with the eyes on the phone screen. I remember when the smartphones were coming into their full realization. And I was living up in North Florida, but I would go down to Miami occasionally for business. And I would stay at the Miami Temple. And I noticed as soon as I got into Miami, I'm on the freeway, and everybody's like this. Look, what is the matter with these people? they were sophisticated urbanites. And so they're driving, and meanwhile, they're just looking at all their screens. They're getting in all kinds of wrecks. And there's a lot of bumper-to-bumper traffic in Miami and different places, big city. And I was astounded coming from the country and everybody eyes were glued to their phone and not to the road. So this is going on. So it's like the spirit soul. He should be focusing in on Krishna consciousness while he's on his journey through the material energy, but instead he's asleep to that, and he's focusing on the screen of sense gratification instead of paying attention to his real business, which is bhakti. So that's kind of an analogy for the spirit soul, driving with the eyes on the phone screen and getting into so many hazardous conditions and disasters. There was one, I had the car, I was in Miami actually that time also, I had the car on the public radio, and they were talking to one, it was at noon, and they're talking on the local political show on public radio to some local city government guy, and he was driving and he was doing the interview on the phone, and he had a wreck while he was on the interview on the radio. He said, "Oh no, I just had a wreck," because he was not paying attention to driving. It was on his phone. So it's a good analogy. It's a good lesson learned. So don't drive with your eyes on the screen, and don't focus your mind on sense gratification while you're going through this great journey of life in the material world. So Prabhupada very nicely explains here that when we get some twinge of awakening to become Krishna conscious, which he says is a return to Krishna consciousness. So all of us, we want to return to Krishna consciousness because that's where we came from. That's our origin. But we've long forgotten that. But somehow or other now, due to the mercy of the preaching of the Krishna conscious movement, we've come into contact with these instructions, with Srila Prabhupada's books, and hearing and chanting the holy name. And then we've awakened a desire. Yes, I want to return to that Krishna consciousness, because this trip in the material world is bringing me down. It's a bummer. I'm suffering, and who wants to suffer? Anyone who wants to suffer, raise your hand. No, we don't want to suffer. Yet here we are suffering. Okay, that's a problem. How do we solve this problem? And Prabhupada says this is the real intelligent inquiry to solve the actual problems of life. The actual problems of life are not economic development and sense gratification. The actual problems are birth, death, old age, and disease. We've taken our birth, now we're in this body, it's temporary, we're suffering, and then at a certain point, like it or not, but you got to face up to it, folks. Everyone's going to have to leave this body. Everyone's going to have to die. So oh man, what a drag. I was just getting comfortable. I was just figuring stuff out. Somebody's 60, 70, 80 years old. Yeah, now I'm old, I'm experienced, I know everything, I know how to get around, I know how to get over. I got everything figured out. And then boom, you have to leave. Well, wait a minute, I wasn't finished. Prabhupada tells a story about one man, and the doctor tells him, you don't have long to live now. Everything is bad. So you're going to go very soon. And the man says, just give me 4 more years, and then I can finish all my plans. My plans for my family and my estate and my business and my position in society. I just need 4 more years, doc. The doctor's like, hey man, I don't have it to give. It's not mine to give you. You're finished, you're done for. You've got 6 weeks left. I just need 4 more years. You have to give it to me. You see the guy strangling the doctor. You must. I need it. I have to have it. How much does it cost? But no, with millions of dollars, you cannot buy 1 second of time. When the time is gone, it's gone. You cannot buy it back. You can't have it back. There are no do-overs, as people say. I want a do-over. Maybe in some game or something like that, you can get a do-over. You know, penalty 15 yards and you do the play over, right? But no, there's no do-overs. 1 second is so valuable that with millions of dollars, you cannot purchase. And once it's gone, it's gone. And when the time is up, you have to go. And you can't plead and cajole and bargain for 4 more years or even 4 more seconds, if that's what it is. But fortunately, the Krishna consciousness movement is here to assist us, to remind us, to awaken us to that fact. And when we come in contact with the saintly person, which means Srila Prabhupada and his books, and the devotees, the followers of Srila Prabhupada, then Prabhupada explains here, we hear many Vedic instructions in the form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and transaction between God and his devotees. In this way, a person becomes refreshed in their mind, which is the analogy of King Puranjana here, who smears the sandalwood pulp. Sandalwood pulp has a very cooling effect. You can imagine, you know, hot and sweaty, then you take a bath, you put on sandalwood pulp and nice, fresh, clean clothes. It's like, yeah, now I'm feeling good. I'm feeling groovy. I'm ready to embrace the world and all it has to offer. Whereas formerly I was all wiped out and tired and exhausted. Now I'm renewed and refreshed. I was at the El Paso Rath Yatra, and you know, we had the hotel right across the street from the Rath Yatra with the rooms in the hotel. So it was pretty hot that day, and then all sweaty and this and that. And I went up in the hotel room, took a quick shower, and came back down. This devotee that I've known for many, many years, but hadn't seen in a long time, saw him there. And it's like, oh yes, Sarvabhauma, how are you? He says, you look refreshed. He says, what did you do? I said, I took a shower and put on clean clothes. Oh yes, I can tell. Yes, you look refreshed. So when we become refreshed, not only just physically refreshed, but the mind becomes mentally refreshed. You know, like if you take that 15-minute power nap or whatever it is, you know, and then you recharge and you're ready to go back into action. A lot of people do that like right after lunch, right? So by hearing the instructions of Krishna consciousness from the Bhagavatam, which is what we're doing here, and from devotees and from the spiritual master, then we become refreshed in mind. Our mind becomes fresh and relieved from the miseries that we experience that exhaust us in this material world, like especially the miseries of interpersonal relations. You know, those are the toughest ones. We can become very exhausted. And as devotees say, we can become really fried with others in those dealings, and they cause us so much anxiety. Therefore, in the 31st chapter of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, a section called the Gopi Gita, the gopis give one very nice verse. They speak. You know, we think of the gopis, oh yes, they're Krishna's girlfriends. They're the cowherd girls. They're not just cowherd girls. You know, the gopis are the greatest devotees of Krishna. They're highly self-realized yogis. They're the greatest of the great of all the devotees because they love Krishna more than anyone else. So they're the most elevated in bhakti. So they understand the philosophy of the Vedas very, very well, although they're cowherd girls engaged in, you know, churning yogurt and doing different things that, you know, the cowherd girls would do in the village. But that's not where they're really at. That's their devotional service to Krishna, but they're highly enlightened, self-realized, great yogis, the gopis. So they speak very wonderful philosophy, as in this verse from the 31st chapter of the 10th canto. Tava katam ritam, tapta jivanam, kavibir idisam, kalmasalpaham, shravana mangalam, srimad atatam, bhuvi grinanti, yabudida janaha. That this tava katam ritam, the kata, the Krishna kata, which is amrita, like nectar. Tava means your, they're talking to Krishna. Tava katam ritam, tapta jivanam. It is the life and the soul of those who are suffering in this material world. So who is suffering in the material world? Well, everyone in the material world. Everyone who's in the material world is suffering. That's a fact. So for those who are experiencing this suffering, then the Krishna kata, tava katamritam, the nectar of the philosophy of Krishna, of Krishna's activities, Krishna's pastimes, what Krishna's speaking, like in Bhagavad Gita, there's some really great nectar there. The nectar of Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, that is so wonderful, the exchange of love. Shravana Mangalam, that this hearing, this Krishna Kata, Shravana means to hear, Mangalam means auspicious, just like we have every day, Mangal Artik at 5 o'clock. Why is it Mangal? Because that time of day, which is more or less the hour and a half before sunrise, called the Brahma Muhurta, is the most auspicious time of the day, that hour and a half before sunrise. And it's a very auspicious time for activities of self-realization. Therefore, the arti that is offered to Krishna at that time is called Mangala. It's auspicious, Mangala Artik. So Shravana Mangalam, this hearing is Krishna Kata, it is so auspicious. It is the most auspicious thing. Srimad Atatam is very beautiful too. Bhuvi Grinanti Yabudi Janaha. And those who distribute these messages, distribute this Krishna Kata, which Srila Prabhupada has what? Translated Srimad Bhagavatam and distributed that all over the world, right? Bhuvi Grinanti Yabudi Janaha. Such persons are the most munificent of all types of munificent persons. What does munificence mean? Well, like munificent is we take prasadam when we go to the Southside Presbyterian Church and distribute that to the homeless people. So that's munificent. Even an ordinary person could say, oh yes, you are so kind, you are so munificent. You're freely giving this nice food, which is not just nice food, it's actually prasadam. It's offered to Krishna. Some of these people, you know, for them, it's been waiting millions of lifetimes to get one bite of prasadam. And they're getting a whole plate of nice rice, dal, sabji, you know, halava, salad, that's been offered to Krishna. So that's munificent. Here come the devotees. They're not getting paid. The place is not paying us. The people are not paying us. We're bringing that and giving it. So that's munificent, right? So Prabhupada has arranged to distribute this knowledge in the form of his books and his devotees and everything else about the Krishna conscious movement. He's distributed it all over the world. Buddhida janaha. Da means to give. Buddhi means munificent person. So, Buddhida janaha. Such persons are the most munificent persons in the world. So Srila Prabhupada is so munificent. He is giving this Srimad Bhagavatam, this message of Krishna consciousness, to awaken us. Jeev Jago. That's a song by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Jeev Jago means wake up, sleeping soul. Jeev Jago, Gauda Chandra Bole. Chant the holy names of Gauda Chandra. Chant the holy names of Hare Krishna. Kota Nidra, Jao Maya, because you're sleeping in the lap of a witch. Jao means witch. You sleep, you've got your head in the lap of a witch called Maya. Imagine there's some witch, you know, like Hansel and Gretel in the forest, and the witch has her little evil cottage, and she lures children there and sucks their blood or whatever. So imagine putting your head in the lap of the witch. I'm going to suck your blood now, dearie. Right? Whoa, hey, don't do that. Wake up, man. That's an illusion. You've been hypnotized by that witch. She gave you some herbs or something to drink, you know, and then you become like, yes, I will do anything you say. So Maya has us like that. She's got us by the balls, as they say. And so Lord Chaitanya is saying, Jeev Jago, wake up. Why are you sleeping like that in the lap of the witch called Maya? You should wake up, because that being in that lap of that witch and sleeping like that, that's a very dangerous position for you. Of course, nowadays, you know, nobody believes in witches. What do they believe in? Zombies. They have all these zombie TV shows and zombie movies and Zombie Nation and zombie. What is a zombie? There's no such thing as a zombie. It's nonsense. But what they'll do for entertainment, you know, and make up some foolish thing. But you wouldn't want to sleep in the lap of the zombie, because they'll bite you and turn you into a zombie. So it's a very dangerous condition, right? So, Kota Nidra, Jao Maya. You're in the lap of this witch. And so you have to wake up, Jeev Jago, and chant Hare Krishna, chant the holy name. And when we had a 11-story building, maybe it was 12-story building, in Midtown Manhattan in the 1970s. Prabhupada called it his skyscraper temple. And it was right there in Hell's Kitchen in Midtown Manhattan. And there was a couple hundred devotees. Yeah, you'd go to Mongol Artik in the temple on 55th Street, there'd be 200 devotees in Mongol Artik. That was pretty fabulous. That was amazing. That was the heyday of that temple. So, I forgot what I was going to talk about. Oh yeah, so there was a devotee there. His name was Jivadar, and he was a Latin American devotee. So he would go around, like they had different floors. Like one floor was the Grihasta floor, one floor was like the Sankirtan devotees, one floor was the Brahmacharis, another floor for the ladies. Very nice arrangement, actually. So on the men's floor, he would go around about, 3:45. So Mongol Artik was at 4:15, by the way. We got it easy here. It's only 5 o'clock. So, come on, that's easy. Get up at 5. Come on, man. So at about 3:45, he would go around and he would knock on every door in that room. It had formerly been like a retirement home. So there was all these rooms, like, and devotees living in each different room, 2 or 3 devotees. And he would knock on the door, Jeev Jago, Prabhu, Jeev Jago. And it was so nice to hear that in his Spanish accent. Jeev Jago, Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Jeev Jago. Knock on every door, bang, bang, bang. And then everyone, of course, all the devotees would get up. And if you wanted any hot water, that was the 5th floor, I think it was. If you wanted any hot water on that 5th floor, you had to get up very early, because once the hot water ran out, then there was no more hot water, and it was only cold water. And in Manhattan in the winter, you get some cold showers. They have a water tank up on the roof. What they do is they pump the water up to the roof, and then the water pressure going down through the pipes. You have very good water pressure because the water's up on the roof. Have you ever seen big water towers? When I was a kid, and there was this big water tower in our town. It was like 100 feet in the air, this giant thing. They'd pump it up there, and then that would power up the whole city water system with plenty of water pressure. But that water on the tank on the roof is cold. And once the hot water heater runs out, you're finished. And so the showers are very cold. Actually, the coldest showers I ever took is in the Toronto temple. And there the water comes from like the bottom of Lake Ontario, which even in the summer, it's very cold. So in that basement of that Toronto temple, in the summertime, the water's very cold, and that'll take your breath away. So, Jeev Jago Prabhu, Hare Krishna. So we have to wake up. And Prabhupada says here that we, somehow or other, through association, we awaken a desire to become Krishna conscious. Just like Siddhamani was saying about Tristan, he's been coming to Mongol Arctic a lot. Why is he taking all this trouble to get up in the cold and drive over here and come to the Mongol Arctic? And my response was, because he wants to go back to Godhead. That's why he's taking the trouble. Why do we take the trouble to hear Bhagavatam? Because we want to go back to Godhead. It's something we do. Why do we take the trouble to chant our rounds? Why do we follow this process of Krishna consciousness? Because we're tired of this suffering and we want to go back to Godhead. Like, for example, now it's time for the class to end and we're going to take prasadam. Why do we take prasadam? Oh, well, because it's very nice. Because Shanta has cooked very nicely and everything has been offered to Krishna. That's a little easier. That's the least of our austerities. Taking nice prasadam, that's always a pleasure. So we'll stop here. Questions, comments, realizations? Yes, Damodar.
You mentioned you were talking about Prabhupada's purpose. You referred a lot to Sridhar Swami. But I was just wondering about the historical time frame of Sridhar Swami. Was he a Gaudiya Math devotee? Or?
No. That's a different Sridhar Maharaj.
Oh.
That was Prabhupada's godbrother. But the commentator in Srimad Bhagavatam, Sridhar Swami, I believe he's 4th or 5th century.
Oh, okay.
But he's called the original commentator on the Bhagavatam.
Before Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
Yeah, we're talking, 300-400 AD.
Okay. Okay. All right.
So yeah, he's the original commentator. And then you have, after him, then you had in this 8th century, like Shankaracharya, then Ramanuja and Madhvacharya, and then 500 years ago in the 15th and 16th centuries, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers, the Goswamis. Then in the 17th century, you had like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In the 19th century, you had Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati appeared in the 19th century. And then the Prabhupada appeared in the 19th century too, 1896. And in the 20th century, Bhaktisiddhanta was preaching and Prabhupada appeared. So it's a long history. But originally Vyasadeva has presented Bhagavatam, just at the time of the disappearance of Krishna. But actually it's eternal. But in modern history, 5,000 years ago, that's modern history in Bhagavatam terms. So, you can Google Sridhar Swami. There'll be a Wikipedia reference with his exact dates. I'm just giving approximate dates because I don't know. All right. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.